I really need to edit that. Also, I don't need my glasses because I want people to see my beautiful face. And with all my fancy lights, it's hard to do. I really need, since it's our first bonus segment of It's Entertainment, I really should put like a bonus, like bonus, like yay, like kind of thing in our intro. So
this
that way
is bonus.
Yeah, like just something fun. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. I just got excited about bonus.
Bonus!
So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess because also it's going to get released as the actual podcast and going to go up on the YouTube as well. This is our first bonus episode of It's Entertainment, which is actually how It's Entertainment started, was as bonus episodes to then become its own show with Deeds and I, and now we're here doing the damn thing. And so this is going to be our first bonus one.
Thing.
Because I feel like this is also going to be our first episode that we talk about specific. Like, this is specifically the View Askew-universe. That's such a tongue twister for me sometimes. Oriented episode, which I feel like even our last episode we just did was all centered around Marvel, but it was around like different things. And this is just going to be all Kevin Smith. That's what we're talking with this one. Which is absolutely your wheelhouse. I'm a Kevin Smith fan. I can't say I have nearly as much knowledge as you do on the man. He is absolutely a very big inspiration on just starting off also as just a big guy, making movies and making, kind of some real shit and not being some pompous kind of dickbag like some people are. What are we showing off here? I didn't know you had a J in Silent Bob tattoo. Why did I not? Yeah, I didn't know that. That's like, see, look at that. We've been friends for years now, and I'm still learning. You're still taking me to school. I'm still learning.
I feel like that one. I don't know, like not that I don't show it off, but like I'm not like, oh look, I got tattoos, and I'm not one to like yeah, the one on my arm, like it's kind of just obvious it's there.
That, and I don't know if you're anything like me. Today's like
I don't
a
even
random
notice
exception.
It anymore.
Because I didn't want to put real clothes on, that I'm actually wearing shorts. But generally, I wear jeans. And I feel like every time we hung out when we were in New Jersey, it was the same thing. I feel like every time we saw each other, it was just we were t-shirt and jeans and snapback kind of guys. Like that was just our thing.
See, it depends. I'm very temperature specific when it comes to it's like it's got to be cold enough because I'm a bigger guy. I used to be a bigger guy. So I run a little hot. So like jeans in 70 degree weather, can't really do. It's got to be like 60 or below for me to be like totally comfortable in jeans. But like honestly, probably like maybe even like 55 or under for me to be like completely comfortable in jeans all day without having to worry about it.
I am a psychopath. So I am constantly wearing jeans. Like I said today, even like the heat index is like fucking disgusting today in Florida. And I'm still like, nope. If I need to go anywhere in like real public, like further than the gas station, I'm wearing jeans. I'm getting dolled up and I'm wearing jeans. Which is funny because I have some dope tattoos on my legs too. And I'm like, no, I'm wearing jeans. I'm not going out and not showing off my pasty white chicken legs in the panhandle where it's forever sunny or just downpouring. But anyway, other than our sexy ham hocks that we got going on, we are talking. I want to start off before we get into the Clerks 3 stuff because I know there's so much with that going on, with it kind of being still fresh. I watched for the first time.
Sadly, I'm still in Texas. My Twitter campaign did not work. All of one tweet.
That and the fact of knowing kind of where, because I know I have an article pulled up from, it looks like yesterday, I think I pulled this up, where we've got the crew back at the quick stop and everything like that. And even now my father and I talk back and forth. A lot of my connection with my dad is through like film and TV shows and things like that. Where I got a tag, I think I messaged you about this too, is where he texted me at like 5:30 in the morning one morning. He was like, "Hey, guess what? Clerks 3 is filming at Gianni's right now." He was like, "Oh, I mean, not Gianni's, movies." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I wasn't like, "Why are you texting me this?" I was just like, at 5:30 in the morning, this is a real random text to get from my dad.
He probably like just saw it.
That would make sense, especially if they're setting up kind of, even if it was just for outdoor shots. Because obviously they did the movies pop up at the Gianni's, I think last year. Late last year
or early this year, I forget exactly.
And yeah, I don't remember, because it had to have been last year, because I was still in New Jersey when it happened, and I moved down here in October. So it was sometime last year, and even if they were setting up for outdoor shots and they were just setting up early, because my old man goes, he does landscaping, so he's up and out by like 4:30 in the morning, like ready to go and going to get ready for the day. So it's likely that he probably drove past it, because he works out of Red Bank, that he drove past it, and like 5:30 in the morning, he was like, "Hey, guess what? Movies is back in Red Bank." But I want to talk about the fact that I just watched the Jay and Silent Bob reboot for the first time, like a week and a half ago. And I didn't hear bad things about it. I heard just basically kind of what you would expect. It was literally like it was a reboot, and the way it was worded to me is that it was very meta in a way.
Yes.
And that was kind of the big takeaway from it, was how meta it is. And that's what kind of made it the way it was. So it was one of those that it's not that Kevin Smith's bad. I just didn't know what to kind of expect. Like, I knew it was kind of like he was kind of mocking the same thing at the same time, like doing what he does. But I was like, I don't know what I'm expecting out of this.
Mocking reboots, mocking sequels, mocking what he does.
And I was like, I think I was just scanning through things on because it's on Amazon Prime. And I generally use my Amazon Prime for specifically ordering shit. So I don't really go through the TV shows, but I was just like, you know what? Let me go through
Let's see what they got.
Yeah, and that was one of the first things that came up. It was like, oh, I haven't seen this. Let me watch this. And let me tell you that I went into it with low expectations, and I came out delighted. I finished that movie absolutely delightful. It was like, this is delightful. I'm so glad I watched this today.
First off, put a pin in this for your watch later list. Check out Upload on Amazon. Fantastic show. Back to Kevin Smith.
In my note, put that in my notes now. And I loved everything. I actually loved everything about it. Like, just from the straight up them showing up, and we actually did talk about, and I can never say his name. I want to say it's like Dave Damasky or Dave Damasca, or who was he played Polka Dot Man Suicide Squad that we talked about, where in the opening of this movie is the cops the SWAT team swarming
he's got no picture.
Yeah, and like, which was also like, again, one of my favorite tropes, and I bring it up all the time, is cheap comedy. And that's exactly what that was. I was like, this shouldn't be as funny as it is, but because of what they're doing right now, this is absolutely fucking hilarious. Because imagine like Dante going to work. Imagine being in Dante's shoes, showing up, seeing the SWAT team, and then hearing a cop who has been trained to face death and some very extreme situations just going, "He's got no dick, sir." Like, you're looking around going, there's no way this is real life. There's no way it's real life. Where it was, that's just that beginning there is so good. And just keeping the tropes where it's like, "What's your name?" It's like, "I'm Jay, and this is my hetero life mate, Silent Bob." And there's Kevin Smith in the back just waving, not even like panicky. And we've seen that in like Mallrats and in other movies. Not even panicky, just now Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, is at the point of he's in the background waving. He's happy to be there. He's happy to be included. And he's not doing
anything wrong.
And I love the fact that, because it took me a second where I was like, oh my God, because obviously the video rental's not a thing anymore. So when that scene pans in and I see that it's not the video store and it says cock smokers, and I'm just like, oh, I was like, that's actually really sad. That sucks. To then find out when they're in court with Craig Robinson, they're like, it was a front for their weed for their weed growing like facility. I was like, oh, that makes more sense now that it was just probably an empty building and still had the video store sign, and they just put that over so that way no one would fucking come at them. And of course, Kevin Smith is just amazing at getting cameos to begin with, but the star-studded cameos through this entire movie, like every corner you turned, I'm excited about it.
Well, when you almost die of a heart attack.
Which he's mentioned that too. He was like, I kind of just made this as an excuse to call all my friends and be like, I almost died being my movie. Like, wasn't that a thing he did?
Essentially, yes.
And of course, also some returning View Askew universe characters, I think, which besides Jay and Silent Bob and Dante in the very beginning, you get Justin Long's as the attorney, which also I believe he was in Zack and Miri. Is that where his character's from?
Well, here's the thing. If I remember correctly, they can't mention him by name because Randy St. James is technically owned by whatever studio put out Zack and Miri.
Let me see.
He can play and I'm pretty sure like he's not credited as Randy St. James.
That's what I want to check because I'm pretty sure you've mentioned this to me before, and we've talked about this because I think we've briefly spoken about Justin Long. Because I think we briefly talked about Tusk at one point, whether it was on an episode or off air, that we were talking about it. Where I think you've mentioned that to me. I still haven't seen that one either.
I mean, like, it's a rubber monster movie, but like, if you can get into it, it's just like, oh, this is fucked up.
I do know through the movie they mention it a few times. Where obviously they have Jay keep calling Kevin Smith Kevin James. It's like, isn't that the fucker that made Tusk? Let me see. There's so many like good just Kevin Smith mocking himself lines.
Well, it's shit that happens
in movie.
It's shit that from someone who listens to like not all of his podcasts anymore, but like a shit ton of his podcasts, like that's apparently like a regular occurrence that happens. Like people are like, hey, Kevin James. And like even like news outlets, like they'll just confuse them and they'll be like, Kevin James of Clerks fame.
And yes, you are right. Like I said, I know we briefly talked about it before. Justin Long is credited as just lawyer. Because I even think when he shows up, when they walk in, he was like, oh, I'm your lawyer. They're like, we didn't hire you. Which then obviously then the hilarity ensues of him getting them to sign papers. And I think that's also another funny like trope where he gets up, they go to the next case, and he just gets up from their bench and goes over to the other table and sits down. And I was just like, and it caught me off guard too. And I think that was my favorite part. I was like, oh, I was like, this is just Kevin Smith bringing in like one of the characters from a movie he's done. And I was like, okay. And then him getting up and progressing that story along. It was just like, oh, that's what we're doing right now. I'm like, that's
loosely connecting Zack and Miri to the View Askew universe.
But just all in all, movies just, it's actually really fucking funny.
Look, if you like Kevin Smith movies, it's, you know what you're getting into. Is it one of his best? No. Is it one of his worst? No.
No, it is not. No, it is not. As someone
not
who's watched, I was about to say someone who's watched Cop Out.
It's not Cop Out.
And I like bad movies, no matter like what happens in them. I generally like bad movies, and all I can remember from Cop Out is Sean William Scott breaking his neck doing parkour. That's it. That's all I remember from that movie.
The only thing I remember is Tracy Morgan in the fucking car going, no. Yeah,
there's that too. I don't even know the context of it.
Ain't gonna happen. No way. No.
Um,
That's it.
if I could just get this fucking thing to go away.
Like
But yeah, absolutely.
I don't even remember the plot of it.
No, I don't either. There's just buddy cop movie where something big's happening. Two cops are going against the grain.
Buddy cop movie where Kevin Smith worked with one of his heroes, and the saying "you should never meet your heroes" came true.
Which also leads me into after watching the reboot
because apparently Bruce Willis is a dick.
Well, that was one of the funny things too, is after watching the reboot, of course, like most streaming services, it brings up recommendations, which then brought up Kevin Smith's stand-up, the one he did where he literally had a heart attack after filming and almost died.
Too Fat for 40?
I think that's it. I'm you know how my computer is. I'm pulling up because I wanted, this is all Kevin Smith today, so I want to make sure I have all of his stuff pulled up in front of me, and I'm sure all I have to do is go to self, and that'll pull up.
I started with because he's released these as DVDs and shit throughout the years. He did An Evening with Kevin Smith, but the first one I saw was An Evening with Kevin Smith 2, Evening Harder. I saw that, then I went back and watched the first one. Then he did A Threevening with Kevin Smith.
Oh, such good names.
And then there was did he do Too Fat to Fly and then Too Fat for 40? Or was Too Fat for 40 the same one? I don't remember exactly. But he's done a couple of them, and like it's hard to explain to people who just know, like, before his whole podcasting thing like exploded, and then more people found out, like, oh, this dude can talk and tell stories. But like it was kind of hard to explain to people, like, why are you watching a director Q&A on DVD? And it's like, because this is like one of the funniest stand-up comedy routines I've ever fucking seen. And it's just him telling a story. It's not really like a stand-up routine. He's kind of just telling a story.
When did he almost die? What year was that?
I don't even want to guess at this point. 4 years ago? 2018? No, that doesn't sound right. Maybe. Yes? 2017, final answer.
Looks like at least... So, because Too Fat for 40 was 2010, that's what threw me off. Silent but Deadly was the one, and that came out in 2018. So if he filmed that in 2017, that would make sense. I don't know how comedy specials are when they film them and how fast they get aired after they're edited and everything like that. But that was 2018 was when it was released. I
think it was released like a year after he had the heart attack. So I think the heart attack was 2017.
But then watching that next, and of course, again, now I've actually never watched any of Kevin Smith's stand-ups. I've never watched any of the ones you had mentioned. This was the first one I'd sat down and watched. And of course, I watched like the extended cut of it, so I don't even know what the difference was between the initial release and the one I just watched. But I love the fact that he started. He was like, "Hey, you're about to watch my stand-up routine, and I just want to let you know, as soon as we finish filming this, I had a heart attack and almost died. Enjoy!" And then cuts into the whole thing. I was like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "I don't want you to feel bad, but just know that while you're watching this, I just about died right after we filmed this. So enjoy, have fun doing the Kevin Smith thing." I was like, "Oh, like I knew that, but then I was like, I'm kind of caught off guard right now. I don't know how to feel right now." And one of his stories in there is talking about the fact that he's talking about everything. He's like, "I'm sitting around." He's like, and Bruce Willis calls me, and I haven't talked to him in years. I'm talking about Bruce calls. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just hanging around and wanted to give you a call, see how you're doing." He's like, "I'm going to be in town when whatever." He's like, "next week or month or whatever." He's like, "We'll get together." And then I think that's where the special ends, where he's like, "Just want to let you know, this was X time that he called me, and he still hasn't come over. I haven't heard from him since." Where again, like they almost like, they kind of talk things out, and he brings up, he's like, "Yeah, yes." He was like, he was like, we haven't spoken since finishing Cop Out and everything. And then he just kind of called him out of the blue. So at least it seems as though there's less animosity there than there was. At least at the time of that. And I'm sure since then, due to what, him having the heart attack and everything, I'm sure I would hope they've spoken since and have been a lot more cordial kind of about things. But also delightful. Maybe. Also just absolutely delightful watching that stand-up special. I was like, this is delightful. He went on like a 25-minute tangent about coming with his wife. And I was like, I don't know why, but this is fucking hilarious. I was like, it shouldn't be, but it is.
I have heard that man talk about if I had a nickel for every time I heard Kevin Smith talk about fucking his wife, eating his wife's ass, his wife doing something to him, and stories about Jay like filleting random things and shit. Like I don't think I'd be a millionaire, but I'd have a lot more fucking money than I do right now. But no, his so does he go into like the full story about the whole, or does he do a recap of the Bruce Willis story, or does he just I don't remember exactly with this one, or is it just like Bruce Willis called?
No,
and everyone already knows.
He kind of like it's like the Spider-Man origin story where he's like, you've all heard it at this point, so it's just kind of like, I did this movie, I did this with a man named Bruce Willis, and it didn't go well. It's basically a paraphrasing what kind of he explained, without going into like full detail in the stand-up. Like I said, almost like the Spider-Man origin story. Like we know, so he's not going to go over it again.
Well, a little bit longer version of that. They worked together on A Good Day to Die Hard.
Yes.
They worked together on A Good Day to Die Hard, where Kev just did a small little acting bit in that. Which there was like a short period of time where I was like, oh, is Kev gonna kind of pull like a Jon Favreau and like maybe like do some like other random acting on the side that's like not his shit? Because he did that, which was just a small little bit part, but like I thought he did pretty well. And then he did this random movie with Jennifer Gardner. I think it's Jennifer Gardner. And if I remember the name,
I'm listening. This is live right now. There's a bug crawling across my desk. I'm trying to kill him, so I'm listening. I'm get him.
And if I'm remembering correctly, I think the name of the movie is Catch and Release. And like, it's a rom-com. He's not any of the romantic leads. He just plays like a best friend to Jennifer Gardner.
The funny big best friend.
Yeah. And I thought he did pretty well. Like I was like, this is gonna be cool. Like he's gonna do more stuff, and just like that on top of the whole cop out thing, just like kind of just fucking derailed him for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do Die Hard, and then Bruce is like, you direct movies, right? Like, we should do something together. And then when Cop Out came about, he was just like, here we go. And then he found out just how big of a dick Bruce Willis can be. My favorite thing in that is that Bruce Willis does this thing apparently with movie scripts, where like he'll get there like the day of, and he'll look at the daily, and he like looks through it, and he'll rip out pages and be like, this is chuffa, this is chuffa, this is chuffa, and like we'll rip whole fucking pages, like multiple pages out of like a dailies for a script, which like sometimes at most is only like 8 pages, and he'll rip like half of it out and be like, we don't need this. And he asked him, he was like, what's chuffa? And he's like, it's just needless stuff. It's just people talking, like doesn't necessarily move the plot along, doesn't do this. And then like Kev's like, okay, my bread and butter, even though he didn't write Cop Out.
Yeah.
But it's just like, that's part of the reason why he chose to direct this, because this had more of 2 cops sitting and talking.
Yeah.
Which has been his motif for years. He says like, he's like, what I'm really good at is shooting 2 dudes talking.
or not talking.
Chug.
I'm just, you know what? I'm not paranoid about I live in Florida, so it's not, my house is clean, but I live in Florida. So bugs like roaches and shit get into the house, especially because my side area is an addition. I know this has nothing to do with the episode, but I don't really give a shit. So it's a little roach, but I'm just like, I know it's because I'm doing shit and I'm moving and I'm talking. It's not going to come into my drink. But of course, the little voice in the back of my head is like, finish your drink before that roach gets into it. And I'm like, it's not realistically going to happen. I was like, I need to finish this drink right now. I didn't want to, but I was like, I need to do this right now. Like right now, I need to finish my drink before this thing crawls into. It was just crawling over my Lego set before, and that kind of bummed me out. But
I've been there. Before we go back to Kevin Smith, was that another can of Liquid Death, sir?
No, because I haven't gotten to the store to go get more Liquid Death. So that was actually Starbucks coffee.
Oh, nice.
Those coffee shots, and that was my second one of the day. Within the
I
last 2 hours.
I was meaning to ask you last episode, just like, is it just like water in a can, or is it actually like, oh, this is pretty good water?
Okay, so I don't know how to explain this without sounding pompous as shit, but it's literally the best water I've ever drank in my life, and I don't know how to explain that. I've told people that, and just a disclaimer.
What's your favorite water? This like before Liquid Death, like before you drank Liquid Death, it was like, oh my god, like, what was your go-to?
Honestly, just like purified store brand water. So like Target brand. It didn't matter what the brand was, as long as it was like purified water. Like that was like my go-to, especially when it's real. Because I'm really weird about things. Like I drink hot tea, but when it comes to anything else, it's got to be like just about to freeze cold for me to like really enjoy it. And just purified water to, at least I know out of the bottle, it's not great for the environment and everything like that. But besides that, just kind of like, because especially cases of water are like $2. It shouldn't cost anything for us to get fucking water, but it's like $2 for a case of like 24 bottles at like 16-ounce bottles. So I'm like, all right, whatever. And then to shout out, to one of my influences, Jason Ellis, who is sponsored by Liquid Death. I don't know what it is about Jason Ellis. He's got that charisma where anytime a sponsor comes on, I don't know what it is about when I listen to his shows and like he goes through a sponsor. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm like, I need to try that. I was like, I need to try that immediately. And Liquid Death is now like they sell it at 7-Eleven. So you can get them at 7-Eleven and at Whole Foods, as far as I know right now, out of like normal places to go. I remember seeing it in a going to 7-Eleven to go get my normal rock stars and stuff like that. And I looked at it, I was like, ooh, I get to try this now. And when I tell you, I just don't want to drink like drinking any other water, I'm like, this tastes gross. I mean that. It's so weird to explain that, like, and look, this is absolutely me. Like, Liquid Death does not pay me. We are not sponsored by Liquid Death, but god damn it, I would like to be, because their merch is dope and their product is fucking good. And I stand by that as just an innocent bystander of just like, I bought this and it is amazing. And of course, also, the aluminum, it's better than plastic. Recycling that, it's better for the environment. So it's great to kind of do the
name like Liquid Death.
Yeah, which is also a great thing where I can't tell you how many times where on my other show, I've like opened up a can and Arisa, my co-host, has looked at me going, did you just pop a beer? Because sometimes like us, we'll record like earlier in the day. And she's like, I know you're making moves right now and you don't have a normal job, but like, did you just crack a beer at 10:30 in the morning? I'm like, no. I have to like hold up the can. I'm like, it's water. It's canned mountain water. But it does. It looks like a Miller Lite can. It's like a light label with like the gold kind of top on it. You're like, oh, you're drinking a beer? Even when I worked on the beach before, which was my last job before I quit to put everything into what we do, one day I was just drinking one sitting there because all I did was watch beach shares for the golden oldies. And one day a dude came up and he was like, yep, that's how you cure a hangover. It was like, this man thinks I'm drinking a beer on the job right now. I was like, it's water. But that's so funny that you think that, and I'm gonna let you think that. So it is. I stand by that. So Liquid Death, if you hear this, This Is Noise Media has multiple shows. So like, come find us, because I would love to keep drinking your product.
We will rename the show
Liquid Death.
This is liquid death.
This is liquid death, and just all of it. And also, and again, I'm not paid to say this. They do. I hate sparkling water. I'm not a big sparkling water guy in any way, shape, or form.
I dropped my
But
pen.
they've got your normal just plain water, and they do have a sparkling water, and fuck is it good. It's so good to the point like I'm like, man, I don't like drinking sparkling water, and I bought this where I was like, I'm gonna try it, maybe because I'm getting older and there's things that like I like better now than I did when I was younger, so let me try it. And I still can't drink, like, I'm not drinking LaCroix or any of that shit, but Liquid Death sparkling water, I'm here for it. It tastes amazing. I'm like, wow, this is game changing right now. There was a point before we get back into Kevin Smith, because I don't want to derail us too long, but maybe about 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, Dasani was trending on like Twitter because of all the like chemicals that are actually in the water and all the things they pull out of the water and add to it, where it was trending. And all I did was take advantage of the situation and made sure that I tweeted at the Liquid Death page and said, Dasani is trending. You know what this means? There's only one solution, and that's Liquid Death. And I stand by that statement. I will die on that hill. I will be the unpaid spokesperson for Liquid Death. I will die on that hill that it's the best water I've ever had. The best.
Now I definitely have to try some.
Yes, I tell everybody that if there's any product that I actually consume that anybody should try, it's Liquid Death.
Nice.
But
I was gonna make a bad joke, but never mind. I was gonna say, almost makes me want to end this early so I can go grab some Liquid Death before I got to pick up the kid.
I mean, we can do that. We can make sure that happens.
Nah, it's okay. But that'll only give us like another half hour.
But, and of course, Kevin Smith is, especially not just us being, from New Jersey. It's just Kevin Smith is just all around a good dude. His movies are great. He does write amazing stuff. And has no problem making fun of himself. And I think that's a big thing as a human being. Like, if
he's the reason I call myself a screenwriter sometimes.
Which also you might be able to elaborate a little bit more on this, but Clerks was the first thing he ever wrote, right?
Yes.
And was, if I'm not mistaken, I could be
wrong.
I'm
not. I can't remember exactly. I don't think he wrote anything before it. Maybe like little things for like the little bit of film school that he was in. But like the way I remember it is that he met his buddy Scott Mosier in film school. He decided film school wasn't for him, and they left. I think Scott might have stayed, or they waited until the end of the year. And then when they went home, they were just like, all right, so we'll go back home, and whoever finishes their script first, like that's whose movie we'll make.
Mm-hmm.
And Kev finished the script for Clerks first. And the idea always back in the day was, Kev to direct one and Scott to produce it, and then Scott to direct one and Kev to produce it. But the way Clerks just kicked off, it was just like, it was Kev. So like Scott went years just producing and like not directing anything, which I find funny because like the first thing that's really got Scott Mosier's directing credit on it is the Grinch remake they did a couple years ago.
Not the
CGI
one, right? Oh, really?
The CGI one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was Scott Mosier and some French chick. They were kind of just paired together. I don't know if like he was there to bring like American sensibilities to it or something, so it didn't get too French, or if just the company thought, because if I remember him telling like early stories about it, because him and Kev used to do a podcast called Smodcast like once a week, sometimes even multiple times. And then there came a long stretch where like Scott wasn't on Smodcast, and like everyone was like, where's Scott? Like, what happened? And like Kev couldn't really say anything until he got the okay from Mosier. So like he kind of didn't say anything. And then eventually Mosier was able to tell people like, oh yeah, I'm in France doing the Grinch movie.
Oh,
What's
well,
funny?
that's fun.
What's funny is that I'm not exactly sure if he's done anything since. I would imagine that he would, because I remember watching that Grinch movie being like, this thing looks fantastic. I'm
Mhm.
enjoying it. Like, everything's good. I was like, Scott should get more work after this. I
Um,
don't know if he has.
and it's funny because even thinking about because our age difference is minimal years. It's not even we don't have a crazy age difference. I
When were
actually
you
didn't
born?
see. Huh?
When were you born?
I'm gonna be 31 next month, so I was born in 90.
Okay, yeah, we're 2 years apart.
Yeah,
I'm
and
88.
I don't know if it was because of that couple year age difference between us that I actually wasn't maybe I wasn't allowed to, but I didn't see Clerks first. I saw Mallrats first. That was the first Kevin Smith movie that I got to be a part of. That was introduced to me as my first intro to the View Askew universe and Kevin Smith and Jay and Silent Bob. I got Mallrats. That was the first one I watched.
I think technically Dogma was the first one that I saw.
You
And
know
then
what?
it wasn't until later that I actually went back, because it was just one of the, like, didn't like, just saw Dogma because of like the people that were in it, like, didn't, and just like, all right, who are these Jay and Silent Bob guys, whatever. And then Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and be like, oh, this is a continuation. And then getting a little older, like starting to be like, oh, filmmaking, and then being like, oh, Kevin Smith, oh, and then going back and being like, oh, there's a couple films, and then being like, oh, these are fucking great, and like falling in love with Chasing Amy, even though it's flawed. And then yeah, like getting really excited. So our friend Joey, his dad used to work as a printer for the paper uh, in our area back home, and so like there was always a paper at Joey's house. And I remember just like I happened to glance over, and on the he wasn't like front page, like he was on the front page, but it wasn't like the big article. It was just like the side article, but it was talking about Clerks 2, and I was like, wait, what? And I
Mm-hmm.
just remember, like, from that point on, like, there was just this weird gear in my head that clicked. That was just like, you're this is going to be the next rabbit hole you like deep dive down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
something about that moment was just like, yes, yes. And then yeah, like I went back, and then like so excited for Clerks 2, and then like that's, like I said, I know I said it in like a past episode, like it's probably my favorite movie.
um, I had to pull up the cast list too, just and to jog my memory. Mallrats was for sure. I saw Mallrats first, probably within a month of actually seeing Dogma. So I probably actually when Dogma was released on home video, um, is when I saw Mallrats, and then I watched Dogma shortly after. So that was within the same span of time for sure. And then I definitely saw, Strikes Back, then watched Clerks 2, and I think then I went back and watched the first Clerks. That's kind of how I circled back to Clerks. Because also, which is really terrible, and this is what kind of makes me a bad Kevin Smith fan, is I actually watched the Clerks cartoon before I saw the first Clerks movie.
Now, what's funny is that I remember the Clerks cartoon, and I remember watching it when it debuted, because if I remember correctly, they debuted it after the Super Bowl on ABC. So
Mm-hmm.
there was all of this publicity, like Clerks, 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 and like, because I remember like sitting at home, like at like after the Super Bowl, and like, and it might not have been like directly after, but I remember watching that like the Clerks cartoon, and I remember like it all looked, because it's like slightly different than the original Clerks logo. And I remember when seeing the original Clerks logo, there was something in my brain that was just like, this looks familiar. Not exactly this, something else about it, but this looks familiar. And then seeing the Clerks anime and being like, that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I remember the shows and was like, oh, Dante Randall, and then it all clicked, but just I remember the ads and just like then that all clicked. It was like, oh,
Which
and
is
then
funny too. Bringing up
going
the
back and
cartoon
watching the Clerks cartoon.
is when I watched Reboot. Obviously, you know, there's the obviously standard costume design for Jay and Silent Bob. And on Jay's hat in Reboot, he's got a couple pins on it. One of them is this right here, which was a pinnacle moment of the cartoon that I remember. Is I think it's in the last episode or second to last episode because it was a short run of the cartoon.
Yeah,
Is there's a whole
they made, I think they made 6. They got canceled after 4.
is it like halfway through the episode it like cuts and then it goes, so somehow we lost the film reel somewhere on a boat and it ended up in Japan where Japanese artists finished the episode, which then becomes a wild anime ride. And one of the big things is, oh my God, who is driving? Oh no, Bear is driving. And it's stuck in my head forever, ever since I saw that. I remember watching Reboot, like it just panned at one point where Jay went to turn to talk to Silent Bob and it's on like the one side of his hat. And I'm going, hold on. No, that's not. I was like, is that a Bear's driving pin? I didn't know that existed. It's something I need now. Where I was like, because it's such a fun mockery of itself. Like, and especially just like, because like you said, because they definitely did. And I think he has talked about it, where they got canceled. And they were like, all right, whatever. Well, we couldn't finish the episode and it ended up overseas somehow. And they finished the episode. And this is what happened. And it's one of my favorite things where not a lot of people get it, because I don't think a lot of people, despite no matter how many Kevin Smith movies you've seen, have seen the Clerks cartoon or even know it exists. Because I'm also 99% sure that the mayor of Leonardo, named Leonardo in the cartoon, was voiced by Alec Baldwin.
Yes.
Which was also another big thing. And you kind of can't tell unless you look it up and then your brain kind of processes it. Because at first you're like, who is this? Because he talks with kind of like a weird, snooty, not British, but kind of British accent. They're like almost diabolical villain kind of accent. And you're like, who the fuck is this? And you look it up, and you're like, is that fucking Alec Baldwin? Like, what
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck am I watching right now? And it you know, it's funny because I don't remember a lot of the cartoon. I remember little bits and pieces, but the big one is, oh no, who's driving? Oh my God, Bear is driving. And it's one of my favorite. It's just, it sits in my brain rent free all the time. And
so
being
from Jersey, did you ever visit the Quick Stop?
No, the only time I ever got past the Quick Stop was with an old bandmate of mine, and we were just kind of shooting the shit, you know, doing what we all did. It's like 2 a.m. and we're just driving around chain smoking and driving around. We ended up in Highlands, which then ended up somehow turning into Leonardo at like 3 a.m. and and just kind of stopping. Because we're not like, you know, drunk driving or doing anything sketchy. We were just driving around and ended up just kind of pulling into the lot for the Quick Stop just to kind of sit and chill for a little bit. And that was my only experience getting to the Quick Stop. Otherwise, after that, I never got a chance to visit or go there.
I've been twice.
Which
is probably not a lot compared to some people. But I remember just one day, like, I was either skipping a college class or it was after college class, because going to Brookdale, Lincroft, it's kind of like right in the middle of like that whole Kevin Smith area and Freehold. So it was like, I just drive a little bit more this way.
Yeah, because I think
like, let's go find it. And I think I was just like, I was literally just going to try to drive and hit Leonardo and just try to find it. But then eventually I was like, all right, I can end up wasting a lot of time here. So I think I like put it in like Google Maps or something.
Yeah, I was about to say that makes sense because I'm pretty sure the parkway's right there. But like, it's basically like you turn out of Brookdale. Like if you go left, you end up in like, keep going, like just go left and keep going left. You end up in Freehold, go left and then turn right. You end up in like Highlands, Leonardo. turn right and go right, you end up in Colts Neck, like, but then turns back into Freehold. So yeah, that's like the central hub of like everything right there, where no matter what direction you turn, you're kind of within those 4 towns. Oh, and then Red Bank.
Yeah, it's from like the 2 kind of like side entrances, like, because there's only like the 2 ways to get in, really. The one of them, yeah, you go left and you go towards Shrewsbury and Red Bank. You go right, you're going to go through Colts Neck into Freehold. And then the other way, if you go right, it's just like, I think it's just Shrewsbury, right?
You like, it's, I think it's Red Bank. I think if you turn right and go down, that leads you into Red Bank. But it's all right. So it's weird because our towns were weird. I don't know if every town's like this. You like,
well, to get to Red Bank, at least from the way I remember, you had to make the left. You went all the way down, and then the road teed. You made the right.
Oh, I know which road you're talking about now. I was thinking, and
then like you pretty much take that almost all the way in. And then you'll hit Shrewsbury, and I forget which road. I mean, you can turn down a couple roads and to get into like parts of Red Bank, but like the one main road, I forget. Was it Main Street?
Broad Street.
There we go. And then it's the left onto Broad Street.
Yeah, right by the Dunkin' Donuts in the food town.
Yep.
Which is actually, that's, also to come back into the, still staying within the Kevin Smith that we're talking about. The Gianni's over by that food town is the one that they were using as the pop-up movies and are using for the movies for Clerks 3. That's where we're talking about right now. We're actually sticking very to our subject matter here. That's what we're talking about, is right there. Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
Speaking of our subject matter, I dropped my pen again.
Yeah, and like you turn right, the Dunkin' Donuts, and that brings you into Shrewsbury. You turn left. I was thinking before you get to that, the light over by the Burger King and the few gas stations, I was thinking of that intersection, which is Shrewsbury Avenue, where if you turn right and you're in like Shrewsbury Township, which isn't really a town, I guess, but like it's
which was right over by the old Shrewsbury Blockbuster.
Yes, yeah, and it's like a fart and you miss it kind of thing, where like if you turn right for like half a second, you're in Shrewsbury Township, but if you turn left, you're immediately in Red Bank. Like one of those, like you're in the right lane, you're in Shrewsbury. You're in the left lane, you're in Red Bank kind of things. Yeah. And then I realized it's the next couple lights up, which brings you past an Acme, which may not exist anymore, and a bunch of liquor stores, and the downtown, going left goes into downtown Red Bank, which I believe. I obviously, the secret stash was on Broad Street in Red Bank, but did they just move?
But they just moved. Yeah, but they just moved like down the street. They're still on Broad Street.
They stayed in Red Bank. I thought they moved like into Middletown or something. I didn't realize.
They stayed in They stayed in Red Bank. I'm not sure if it's a smaller. I actually think it's a bigger store. But yeah, they moved stores. That's all. They're still in Red Bank, just down the street.
Let's see.
Or maybe a street over, but like they're still in Red Bank.
Let's see. This looks like this is the new. Yeah, this is the new.
As many times as I was in Red Bank, and I only went into the secret stash once.
I went in a few times. Actually, there was a moment that what's it called? I had to come up with cash fast, and all I really had were a bunch of like Funko Pops, and I didn't know where to get rid of those at that point. Like I had instruments and stuff like that. That was easy to kind of like hawk to get, cash fast to help somebody out. And then otherwise all I had were my Funkos, and I didn't know where to go. So I actually brought them to the stash, and I regret doing it. Not just because of the person, but also because I was sitting on a Genie Funko, just a regular one, nothing crazy. But then when Robin Williams passed, it like jacked up in price. Where if I was really in desperate need of cash, kind of like some moments I have been, that would have turned out to be. But of course, we don't know that when we buy these things. Like we don't know that what's going to increase in value. But I ended up bringing all my Pops to the stash, and I got a couple $100 for it.
Nice.
So, but I'd gone in a few times. I think I bought a couple comics. I don't think I ever got anything super dope, because of course I always wanted one of the what was the hockey team? The hockey jerseys they wore in Clerks. Was it fuck? It was the Monroe Zombies? Monroeville Zombies?
That's from Zack and Miri.
Is it from Zack and Miri? I think
the gray ones.
Yes. Hold on.
Yeah, the Monroeville Zombies. That's from Zack and Miri because that's the town.
Hockey jerseys. I think I feel like there was one. I would probably actually have to go to Silent Bob Secret Stash. But as I'm pulling that up, because that's gonna drive me fucking crazy, there was something else I was thinking of too. But also, so like swinging back around into kind of Clerks 2 being a pivotal film for you, but for me also kind of was around the time I started recognizing actors and actresses, and that's why I would watch certain movies, is because X, Y, and Z were in that movie. And of course a cameo filled.
I always did that. I did that from a young age. I mean, that's how I saw The Pest when I should not have seen The Pest.
And
if you've seen the movie The Pest, you know that like a 7-year-old should not be watching the movies.
Probably not at all.
Was probably 6, but was like, it's Luigi from the Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. Let me rent it. 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 And like, I guess my parents were dumb because they rented their 7-year-old a rated R movie.
Whoa, that's not what I was looking at. The Leonardo Reapers. There we go. And all I could find was a hat on their website.
Oh, there you go.
That was the jersey. I always wanted one of those. And yes, the Monroeville Zombies were Zack and Miri. I always wanted those 2 jerseys because I am a big hockey fan. And that was like the big thing. But apparently also on the website, shout out to Kevin Smith because these are fucking dope. There are Jay and Silent Bob painted hockey masks, and they are signed by Jason and Kevin, and they are dope. So go buy those and support that man because yeah, he says in his special he's got a giant TV that takes up the whole wall, but still support that man.
Yeah, it's like 120 something inches or something like that. Which is ridiculous, and I want one.
But
I trust. I have.
Is that I'm glad that that's your living room reading material. Do you have another copy in the bathroom?
No. No, I do not. But I literally have My Boring Ass Life, the Kevin Smith. I mean, it's essentially just like his blog entries from like a certain point to a certain point. It's when is it?
Can we just talk about how much you've also actually read that book? Because like the fucking cover's bent and like how long you've had it. Like you've read this book. It's got readers wear and tear on it.
Yeah, this was all from his written from his blog, and like there's stuff where like here, when does it start? I'm trying to like just get like to the beginning of it. So it starts Sunday, March 20th, 2005, and ends I gotta go. And the last story here, which is so the last little like story in the book, which are all blog entries, and he doesn't have a date on this. Oh yeah, sorry, because there's a part 1 and a part 2. So it starts in March 20th, 2005, ends December 22nd, 2006, with the blog post Yippee-ki-yay parts 1 and 2. And so this is before Cop Out.
I was about to say I had to pull that up because I was like, no way that came out like 2007, 2000. Like, so, you know, I was like, oh, that came out in 2010. So yeah, that was before. Oh, let me see.
So this is before Cop Out. So just after watching, so I'm gonna read this last little bit, and after you watching the thing where he's just like fucking Bruce Willis, but he's like, a few weeks later, I was doing a Q&A at a Google event in Santa Monica when someone in the audience asked me what video game would I like to see turned into a movie. After a few seconds, I chose Dig Dug, the early '80s trifle in which a helmeted sprite traveled underground and used a pump to inflate and deflate various mini monsters. My only problem, I said, would be finding someone to play the lead. Bruce Willis! Someone playfully shouted from the audience. And while the audience and I chuckled over the prospect, I immediately started crafting a poster in my mind. Bruce Willis is Dig Dug was the tagline. If a fat kid from the Jersey burbs could grow up to star opposite one of the biggest movie stars in the world in a summer blockbuster, then anything's possible. The optimism.
Which also, because pulling it up is so that happens, right? He's talking about that. I could because I had to pull this up here too. Live Free or Die Hard came out in 2007.
Yeah. And when did it come out?
2007.
Well, he filmed it in 2006.
Yes. So that's funny. That was around that time that
this book also deals with I forget if it. I think it's I think Jay relapses.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a whole bunch of blog entries. Like I can't find it, but he calls it like Me and My Shadow, because essentially like he just kept Jay around. Like he was always by Jay's side. Jay lived at the house and this and that, like trying to get him clean. And it's like there's a couple parts in it where like it's fucking heartbreaking. Like he came, I forget if he actually does for a short time, but like he comes this close to being like to cutting it. I mean, actually, no. Now that I'm remembering, he tells a couple stories. Like there's a couple times where like he cut it off. He cut it off with Jay because of his bullshit. But like there was one time in particular where he was just like, dude, like I'm fucking like, this is fucking it. Like I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think he had a little relapse, so like you can't count, but like I think he's been sober now like 15 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
It should be long. It should be longer, but he had a little lapse with something. I think it was after his oral surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Because he got those dental implants or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he probably had drug mouth.
Jason
Mewes, not Kevin Smith.
And before we actually get into, because I wanted to spend the last of this before because this is a shorter episode too, and that's why it's a bonus episode. Talking about Clerks 3 and talking about the updates. I want to pull up this picture that came up yesterday on a CNN article.
Oh yeah, this chronicles the make and release of Clerks 2 as well.
Is it talking about there's your alarm. Time to wake up.
Yeah. All my alarms are going off now.
But is jumping from at that time talking about cutting off Jay and his relapses and everything like that, to years later during that stand-up where he has the heart attack, where he talks about directing episodes of The Flash and talking about his first episode and busting Jay's balls, being like, dude, look, this guy's name is Jay, they wrote you into the show, and fucking with him. And then be like, no, man, they didn't write you into the show. And Jay just being super bummed out because he loves the CW and he talks about that. And then meeting up with the actual people, the showrunners, and they'd be like, so we wrote your buddy Jay into this. We just kind of assumed he was with you. We just assumed he was a package deal. To then have to go back to Jay and be like, hey, remember when I was fucking with you? He was like, yeah, man, that wasn't fucking cool. It's like, no, actually, I just met with the people. They wrote you into the show. They were assuming you were with me. Which then Jay just, in tears, just so happy. He's like, I get to be on the CW.
He is one dude, and there's a particular part in Reboot, and I don't remember it exactly. I think it's like one of the heart-to-hearts he has with I forget her character name, but it's actually Kevin Smith's daughter. who plays Jay's daughter in the
Yes.
movie. But like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of just, being Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. I don't know if people just like, I don't know if he can't get insured or something. Like, I imagine that he can get insured now. Like, but like, dude actually has like acting ability.
Yes.
And not that Kevin doesn't give him a chance, but like, Kevin knows like his bread and butter. But I think like if someone were to willing to I think like, not that he would be an Oscar winner, but like I think he could pull a performance that would have a lot of people being like, "Fuck, Jason Mewes did that."
Yeah.
All right then.
It's weird this ad keeps playing on this fucking CNN website and I can't get that to go away. But
Oh yeah, because they want you to watch their concert in 2 days.
which
What's funny is that I have CNN on my television right now.
which I'm not going to. I like LL Cool J, but like not enough to not enough to watch whatever this is.
I'm gonna keep checking in because Rob Thomas and Carlos Santana are playing, so there's gotta be like they gotta play Smooth with Rob Thomas singing and like
Sidebar
that hasn't happened since the song came out, so like I need to see that.
Apparently they are coming back together to write a sequel to Smooth, allegedly.
Fuck yes.
But
Clerks 3 talk. I dropped my pen.
Yeah, so all right. So we've got this is again, you can see this is from yesterday. That this because obviously we're recording this on a Thursday, so this went up on Wednesday. So yesterday from us recording. That this article went up with our first look at the cast, and it looks like we've got
which I love the replica shot. That's the shot.
It's great because Clerks 2 was hilarious. And I love that movie to the point where like there's movies with my dad, like obviously, big ones like Jaws and stuff like that. But then there's a couple that are goofy like this. And Clerks 2 is one of those, like my dad will text me and be like, "So I'm making your grandmother watch Clerks 2 for the first time." Like shit like that, which again, there's like a weird age gap where like don't introduce your like 70-something-year-old grandmother to Clerks, especially with the whole scene of like, Frodo bricking in Sam's mouth, as Randall so delicately puts it, but also just like, and then there's like kids. It's like, oh, there's an age. There's an age. Oh, it's like knew I wasn't on this screen here.
Oh, you weren't? Okay.
Yeah, so it's good I just came back.
This is the Clerks 2 screenplay book. And yeah, I love that the replica image. Which
actually, let me see if I can kind of
Rosario Dawson looks like she hasn't really aged a day.
No, she is a goddess.
Everybody else looks how O'Halloran was aging. I thought actually he would look a little worse, but everyone else. But even still, they look old as fuck now. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Like I'm not being like but like. You can see the age.
Yes.
But I think that's what's cool about the fact that like here are these like here's a set of movies that Kevin has. A trilogy of movies that are years apart but revolve around the same two, and at least now the same four will travel, which I'm so glad that Rosario Dawson is like she still loves Kevin Smith. Like she had a great time doing Clerks 2. And like even though she hasn't been in anything else except Reboot. But I imagine like if Kev didn't have his downward spiral and like was doing more flicks, I feel like she would have been like almost like I feel like her and Affleck would be tied at this point for like most Kevin Smith appearances. Obviously, Jay has the most. Him and Jay have the most.
That and one thing I absolutely respect about Rosario Dawson is the fact that she is actually engaged to the New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, and they've been together a long time.
Oh, is that for real?
Yes, they are together. I believe they are engaged to be wed, if not already married.
Oh, well, that's fucking fantastic. That
Where
can we claim her? We can totally claim her as Jersey now. Like she's
yes,
had the
yes,
seal of
1000%.
she's had the seal of approval of Kevin Smith for for like almost 2 decades, but now she married into the state.
Which also looks like an article I got here, not to talk too much about Rosario Dawson's personal life, is that she recently in May, they spoke about moving in together. So they are together. And what I love about that is with Cory Booker being a political figure, you know, you do get a lot of sometimes when it comes to politics, if anybody gets involved, you know, you kind of stay, you know, even though we all know it's fun, it's just movies, you know, nothing weird. You never want anything to come back at a politician. And what's nice about this is not only getting Rosario to come in as, because she also did, like, Reboot happened while she was with Cory Booker. So for her to even come in with that for her short cameo was great. And for her to, you know, do that is the fact that, you know, and I don't talk politics, so I don't know anything about Cory Booker's policies, or, you know, I know he is trying to push for, like, being a man of the people. But what I love about that is the fact of that they're human beings. Like, it doesn't matter if, you know, he's a politician, she's a A-list movie actress. Doesn't matter. They are still human beings, and it doesn't matter that they can stand with their convictions and still do these things. So for her to come back for Clerks 3, knowing that this is going to be a crude, humored, ridiculous movie, is absolutely beautiful. And of course, shout out to Rosario Dawson for getting to play the live action Ahsoka, which always just makes me
that
so
was dope.
happy. So happy, because the Clone Wars cartoon is my shit. So with her coming in as Ahsoka and then coming back to do Clerks 3 with Kevin is just absolutely awesome, and so exciting for that to be a thing.
So continuing with the meta-ness of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot,
Yes.
Clerks 3 is Randall has a heart attack and realizes, like, he hasn't done anything with his life.
Mm-hmm.
So he enlists his friends to help him make a movie. And essentially, according to Kevin, the boys end up making Clerks.
Oh, that's a fun turnaround. I like that. Is there still anything? I know obviously right now his focus is Clerks 3, but there was a point they were talking about doing Mallrats 2, correct?
I think that's probably happening after. I think that's probably happening after Clerks 3. It was supposed to happen before.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
It was supposed to happen before, because it was something with Clerks 3. It was something with Clerks where, because the Weinstein Company still owned Clerks, so he couldn't. He's able to do Reboot. He's able to do Reboot because he owns. A second will go on. The 10-minute countdown. He can do Reboot because he owns the rights to the characters Jay and Silent Bob.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to Dante, Randall, Brody, or no, I guess he can do Brody, but like I guess like he can use the characters, but he can't. I don't think he could necessarily like call it Clerks or something like that. I think I forget like the exact like logistics behind it, but I just know that like Weinstein's owned it and with all the shit, but Lionsgate ended up buying it after somebody else bought it, and they were just like, "Do you have a Clerks 3? Because we would like you to do a Clerks 3." And he was just like, "Do I have a fucking Clerks 3?"
What you know, I feel like I remember him talking about something too, where you know, and again, you have more knowledge on this than I do, is that post heart attack, it was one of those things where, you know, kind of life is short and you never know what's going to kind of happen, kind of things, where he wanted to make sure he got Clerks 3 done, you know, out of everything. Is that a true statement? I feel like I heard him say something along those lines somewhere down the road.
I mean, probably that sounds about right. I know that he he got real like about staying away from the View Askew after Clerks 2.
Mm-hmm.
And just I think he was trying to get the Mallrats thing made for a while. But I'm glad. I mean, if it took the heart attack, I'm glad. Just mainly because, and not that I don't think he can write anything else, but like I feel like that's when he was at his best, and if that can get his creative juices going, then maybe we can see some more shit out of him, you know. And I would love it if I think Universal owns the rights to Mallrats unless those have been like bought back or something. I think that was the issue with Mallrats, but like if I remember, like he was supposed to film Mallrats. If I'm not mistaken, he was supposed to film Mallrats like the winter one year. Like I want to say like 2019 or 2020. I'm not sure if the pandemic's like stopped it and then just shit happened, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could search it.
But yes, and I can say this for fact because again, thankfully for TikTok and the way things pop
I mean,
up
yeah,
here.
he announced. I mean, it must have got pushed back, but yeah, I remember all this. Like everyone, he got everyone to agree to come back from Mallrats 2. And this article I'm reading, it said, looks like we're heading. This article, which is from October 2020, said that it looks like we're heading towards it in 2021, which is very exciting for us. And yeah, like now that I'm looking at this, like I remember all of this. Like, yeah, like he got everyone to agree to come back. Even Ben. And yeah, it was supposed to be he did Reboot. He was going to do Reboot, and then he wanted to do Clerks, but he couldn't. You can't do Clerks without Randall. And Jeff Anderson gets real weird about. I don't know if he's kind of just burned by Hollywood, even though he said he had a good time doing Clerks 2. I don't know if he's just. I think it's also one of those things that for him, because he kind of has like a regular life, I think it's one of those things where like if he's going to drop everything for X amount of time, like not that he needs to get paid millions of dollars, but like these, because I remember that was something with Clerks 2, and that's something that I saw recently with Kev when it came to Clerks 3. Like this is like regardless of whatever, this is the third movie of Clerks.
Yeah.
So obviously something is working. So obviously these guys should get paid. Doesn't matter that they're not regular fucking, and they don't need to get like crazy movie star money, but maybe, these studios can't think that just because these schmoes don't do anything that, pocket change, quote unquote pocket change is going to be good enough for them anymore.
Yeah.
And mainly because even though O'Halloran is like, regularly like does like stage acting and stuff and does like little things here and there and whatnot, like Jeff doesn't act.
Yeah, and O'Halloran's at so many conventions too. I feel like every other convention, no matter how big it is, obviously like most of the time it's bigger ones, but he's at him. He's doing autographs, he's meeting people, he's doing photo ops all the time. But Jeff is not
and he'll always come back for a bit part.
Yes.
In a Kev flick.
Which he had 2 in Reboot. He came back as Dante at the beginning and end. And then he was the other news reporter with Shan Elizabeth. Which also I gotta find it because there's a gif of Jay's whole fantasy scene of him getting railed by Shan Elizabeth, where O'Halloran just pops up from over the desk like this. And I want that gif because it's so good. I keep forgetting to find it. But also, I can't find it, so it was possibly taken down to due to probably copyright things. But they were filming within the last week at the actual Quick Stop location in Leonardo for Clerks 3.
He owns the building now.
Oh, does he? I didn't know that much. That's awesome.
he bought I don't know if like he split it with the family that owns the Quick Stop and like gave them Quick Stop and bought everything else, or if he just bought the building outright and was just like, you guys will just pay me now.
But
he brought back his podcasting theater, Smodcastle, for the East Coast because he's going to be here for a couple months, and I don't know if maybe they're thinking about relocating back to Jersey because he does it, but I can't see his wife doing that. But like, I don't know. All I know is that he bought the building, or at least he's renting it for right now, and he redid Smodcastle, and they own. He's got RST Video, which is not RST Video anymore, but he's got that, and he owned. Like I said, if he doesn't own the whole building outright, I'm pretty sure he owns everything but the Quick Stop, and probably gave the Quick Stop to the family that runs it.
You know, and it's funny because with that knowledge,
or he's renting it from them, but I would assume that he would just buy it outright.
With that knowledge, and also in recent days where Matt Stone and Trey Parker are buying Casa Bonita. Yes, which is also a great. They're like, no, we're not letting this die. Like, we're not doing that. We're not letting this die. And I don't think the Quick Stop was ever in risk of being, dead. But it's nice to see that, like, you put that in your material, and then you're like, no, we're gonna make sure this stays afloat for as long as it needs to be. So, and we will talk more updates as we get more updates. All we know for sure is I can say that, within the last couple weeks, they definitely made Gianni's and Red Bank their movies, which they did. Like I said, they did the pop-up movies at Gianni's and Red Bank last year.
They're making it, and I think they're using the inside too, because they're from what I heard, they're recreating it to try to resemble the movies that they filmed at for Clerks 2.
Which I know, because I remember seeing, it may have been like a bonus feature on the DVD where Kev talks about that, where he was like, it was like an old Burger King, like it was in LA that they just redid for like that shoot, and then they tore it down.
It was an old Burger King in California that was about to get torn down. And what I also remember about that is that there was a Days Inn motel next door. So they just rented out, like, I think like an entire floor.
And just stayed there, walked next door, came back around.
Or if not, the entire motel for the shoot, for the cast and crew. And yeah, it was literally right next door. Like, everyone got up, and like everyone had their own little thing, so like they could do whatever they wanted to. They had, because they all had just like a Days Inn motel room.
Yeah, which's got to be nicer than a trailer. I'm sure movie set trailers are nice, but like having a hotel room to just walk back over to, I'm sure is much nicer than a trailer.
And yeah, and it was literally just right there. So they would just go and then right back. And like Kev was like editing while they were filming.
Oh, that's
so
dope.
So after they got done with a scene, like there was a part in time where like he would be doing it, like they'd film the scene, another alarm's about to go off.
I was about to say, I see what time it is. I know we're gonna wrap up this episode in just a couple minutes here.
Yeah. So like they would wrap up a scene, like they would wrap up shooting for the day, and then one of the rooms was the editing bay, and then Kev would go in there and he'd start editing, and then he'd get a knock on the door, and they'd be like, "All right, like you're ready for your call time," and he's like, "Call time," and it was the next fucking day.
Yeah, and like I said, we will.
I think it was the scene where O'Halloran is painting Dawson's toes, and they're having that conversation. That was the first scene that he edited together.
And of course, we will always talk more Kevin Smith. And Kevin Smith, if you hear this, come on our show and come talk with us about all things fucking Marvel and nerdy and shit like that. Come hang out with us.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, come hang out with us. We'll get some Liquid Death. We'll chug some water together, and we will be best friends as three dudes from New Jersey with glasses and beards.
3 dudes from New Jersey who don't currently live in New Jersey, although you're sort of kind of living in New Jersey because you're filming.
Yes, but if you see this, Mr. Smith, please come hang out with us. We would love to sit and talk with you. But of course, yeah, we will talk more Clerks 3 as things update. Deeds, before I let you go, because I went down a rabbit hole last night, and this is how I ended up with like 4 hours of sleep. What's your because I kind of want to I like this trail of talking about Northeast kind of entertainment. And of course, obviously, with Jackass Forever coming out and all the stuff going on with Bam, I kind of went into this rabbit hole of CKY and Viva La Bam and everything like that. What's your knowledge base on that?
Bam needs help.
Yes, absolutely. And not in a negative way. We're not talking shit here at all. Like,
and he's refusing to take it. He's refusing to get help. And essentially, like, he was on the Jackass. He was a part of Jackass 4 when they first started, and he is not a part of Jackass 4 anymore. He will not be in Jackass 4.
Which we will talk about because I kind of went down the rabbit hole of starting with CKY, and obviously, you know, I actually started with that before Jackass, and because I used to skateboard because I was a cool kid. I was a cool kid skateboarding around New Jersey. So of course started with that, and I ended up down a rabbit hole, and a couple of Bam's crew is still credited, at least on the wiki page. I haven't checked the IMDb for Jackass Forever, but obviously he is not because he's not going to be in it. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But there's a whole thing of like thinking about Viva La Bam, and then when he was getting there.
Who from his crew?
I want to say Rake and Rab. I want to say were the two that I saw. I'll pull it up and I'll send it to you, and we can talk about it next episode.
They were the other two besides Bam and Dunn.
Yeah, I want to say the core 5, excluding Novak, because Novak was in and out, and I think Novak may be part of the problem now. I don't know. I haven't done enough research because I know he's been in and out of rehabs.
I forget it. I forget if it's. I feel like it's Novak or DiCamillo. That's the problem. That's aiding the problem.
I haven't seen anything with Deco in a while. But I know the like core 5 was like Bam, Dunn, Raytheon, Rab, and Brandy Camilla. They were like the core 5 for Viva La Bam, and they were always kind of like on the Jackass set with them. Because obviously Ryan and Bam were both a part of Jackass. So those 3 were kind of with them because they were part of the CKY crew. But yeah, I ended up down a rabbit hole of like how the singer left CKY, which also falls into us talking about music, and just led me into this rabbit hole because I remember I loved Viva La Bam, and I still love Viva La Bam. It was such a great show. Whether it was staged or not, I don't give a shit. It was still hilarious and fun to watch.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It was.
So if your next episode, because obviously this is our bonus episode, if you want to, I don't know if you want to do some research or and enjoy Deeds' ass. We could talk. I want to talk more about that because I know he's getting a lot, with everything going on in his personal life. But I definitely, that was a big staple, like the music and Viva La Bam. So if I think we should talk about that, and we should branch ourselves into our neighbors to the west and talk about Westchester, Pennsylvania next episode.
We could definitely do that, but I gotta.
Yes, you gotta go. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy our first bonus episode. Deeds is on his way out. Deeds is on his way out, and please like, rate, and subscribe. Whenever this episode airs, it's gonna go on. Merch link is down below, and if you don't know, it's teespring.com/thisisentertainment. And you can find all of our channels if you go to the @ThisIsNoiseMedia Instagram with the link in the bio, and you can find all things It's Entertainment with Lur and Deeds. Thank you guys so much for listening. Here comes the outro, and away we go.